Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to say that gamer rage works.
That's right. Yes, the right lesson has been learned here. Chalk one up in the win column, Bruce. The core nerds got another one.
We take those.
We saved Sonic. We fixed Justice League. And now we fixed Helldivers 2. Oh, those wins don't just stop. Hey, PC gamers have broken the chains. Am I right? We're free of creating yet another online account.
I already had that account, Lawrence. All I had to do was link it, but whatever.
I'm excited to get trophies a little bit. I like that blong. I like dong.
In just a weekend, Sony backed away from its extremely unpopular decision to require Helldivers 2 players on PC to link a PlayStation Network account. We did it.
This was a late landing. On Sunday night, Sony tweeted out its retreat, posting, Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward.
Oh, that one's gotta hurt. They added even more salt in the wound. We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans.
Yes. Break out the comically oversized drums and all the fursuits. We've got a Yub-Nub celebration. Da-da-da-da-da. We did it. But hold on. Don't break that out just yet. We have to hear a quick word from our sponsor, Delete Me.
Inside Games is sponsored by Delete Me. If you've been online at all, you probably know that your data is actually being sold by data brokers. Now, there are lots of risks of your data being sold by data brokers, but one of them is identity theft. The FTC received 5.7 million total fraud and identity theft reports, 1.4 million of which were identity theft cases. Now, of course, this is where Delete Me comes in. Delete Me helps keep your personal info private. It's a hands-free subscription service that'll remove your personal information that's being sold online by these data brokers. Delete Me's privacy experts remove you from hundreds of data brokers all year long. You'll get a privacy report in 7 days. Delete Me will remove all your personal data like phone numbers, addresses, emails, etc. It also monitors sites and repeats removal as needed. And customers of Delete Me can make custom removal requests for their data as well. So if you want to keep your own personal information safe from data brokers, go to joindeleteme.com/insidegames. Use promo code INSIDEGAMES at checkout. You'll get 20% off all US consumer plans. That's joindeleteme.com/insidegames. Use the code INSIDEGAMES and keep your information your own. Hey, thanks, Delete Me. All right, now back to celebrating the defeat of the evil corporation, Sony. It didn't take gamers long to pop the champagne, did it, Charlotte?
No, the drinks were flowing. Mountain Dew kickstart for everyone. Gamers, I almost said we. They're always looking for a reason to celebrate. Helldivers fans rejoiced, and phrases from the game like "Major Order Completed" trended, celebrating the reversal. As Twitter user Inky Paws wrote, "Take this as a..." Can I get an American flag laid over me? "Take this as a lesson that together as a community, we, as gamers, are stronger than any corporation." Okay, yeah. Maybe that's overstating it just a little, but there's no doubt that Sony backed down after massive pressure from players who were not happy about the change.
Yeah, And if you haven't been following the story and you don't know why this is such a momentous cultural shift, here's what's been playing out the last couple of days.
Helldivers 2 is a co-op third-person shooter from Arrowhead Game Studios that released in February and has become the breakout hit of 2024. As of mid-March, it had already sold an estimated 8 million copies.
But the glow up couldn't last forever. Finally turned sour last week because Sony, which publishes the game, announced the PC players would need to link a PlayStation Network account to Steam in order to keep playing the game as of June 4th.
Yeah, now in fairness, other publishers do that too. Ubisoft, EA, they make you have accounts there in order to play their games. And of course, if you want to play Sea of Thieves on PC or on PlayStation 5, Microsoft has players make an account for Sea of Thieves.
In a now-deleted tweet, the Helldivers account said that the PSN linking policy helps enhance safety and security by allowing PlayStation to better protect players from griefing and abuse through the ability to ban players who engage in such behavior. But lots of PC players simply don't want to make a PSN account. Some cited Sony's history of data breaches as a reason. Others might live in some of the many countries that don't have access to PSN. You can guess what happened next. Pissed off players flooded Helldivers 2 with negative reviews on Steam.
The usual like knee reflex response, but this time it actually worked.
It's the Boston Steam Party.
Throwing all the negative Throwing all the thumbs down into the river, yeah.
Perfectly good reviews.
In a 24-hour span, the game's Steam page racked up 84,000 negative reviews. That knocked the game's overall rating from 86% or very positive on April 28th down to 49% or mixed on May 5th.
Man, oh man, that was quick. The issue quickly became about more than the annoyance of creating yet another online account or even really data privacy concerns, given that Sony has had significant data breach. I mean, a lot of data breaches here. 2011, 2014, 2017, and of course 2023. I mean, it's just been almost nonstop.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot for 10 years or so for a major company. And like we mentioned, yeah, folks were wondering about the countries in which Sony doesn't even operate the PlayStation Network. And that includes countries like Egypt, Jamaica, Morocco, Georgia. Would these players be kicked out and their games deactivated?
Believe it or not, yeah. Sunday morning, Sony doubled down, removing Helldivers 2 from 177 countries and territories that couldn't access PSN. The satire is almost becoming too much. To make the situation, I guess irony at this point, to make the situation even more galling, folks discovered a subtle change in wording on PlayStation's support website in the last few months, from stating that signing into PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC to some PlayStation games may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN.
I saw that tweet. It was a great investigative tweet. I was like, those bastards! Arrowhead community manager Thomas Peterson punted questions to Sony, writing on Discord, "It's Sony's decision, not ours."
And Arrowhead CEO Johan Pilstedt threw up his hands, tweeting, "I don't have the final say," although he later admitted that he knew about the PSN requirements 6 months before the game launched, and that they, quote, didn't talk about it enough.
Yeah, it's easy to see why this doesn't add up. Why would Sony sell it in the first place to non-PSN countries? Pilstead simply said, "We do not handle selling the game." It sure seemed like Sony changed their mind once Helldivers 2 became a big success, and they may have wanted all that sweet, sweet user data, which makes it a clear-cut example of making a product inferior or outright unavailable for nothing more than corporate greed.
Say it with me. This.
You trying to get a baby to smile for a look at the camera?
No, it's money, Charlotte.
Oh, okay, got it.
But unlike every other example ever, Sony actually caved here and announced they would not enforce the PSN requirement in Helldivers 2, just 12 hours after delisting it in non-PSN countries.
Yeah, they derailed the train somehow, so good for them.
Yeah.
On a weekend, no less. Those executives must be grumpy about answering those emails. At any rate, the PSN linking battle is now over, with players declaring victory, some calling for their comrades to stop taking out their frustration on the game's devs. May have been a good idea from the start, but hey, whatever.
I thought people were posting the King Theoden speech because that actor died, but now I realize it's because the gamers rallied at the castle walls of Sony HQ. For his part, Pilstead tweeted his thanks to the players and Sony for quickly and effectively reversing the PSN decision. He added, "We together want to set a new standard for what a live game is and how developers and community can support each other to create the best game experiences."
But still, you've got to really wonder how much damage Sony did to itself, as it's starting to release more and more games on PC here.
And PC gamers doesn't take a lot for them to take offense, and they remember it for a long time. Remember when Epic had the gall to simply launch a store and start giving away free games? And that was an insult that gamers could not tolerate? It's starting to wane now, like 5 years later, but yeah, things like this tend to stick around. Speaking of sticking around, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is coming out later this month, and it's the first game for PC that will use Sony's PlayStation Network overlay, which will provide access to friends lists, trophies, settings in your PlayStation account. At least it actually does something, instead of just making you log in for no reason.
Interestingly, Zack Snyder's Ghost of Tsushima only requires a PSN sign-in to use the overlay or to access the game's multiplayer modes, so Sony won't get any data on the haikus you compose in the bath if you don't want them to, but please let us see that whole ass, not just a little bit when he's getting out and then faded away. Still, you have one chance to make a first impression, and ecosystem-weary PC gamers just got the worst possible intro to Sony's online services.
If PlayStation decides to build and release their own launcher, like nearly everybody else, and by the way, they've all come back to Steam, they've just made the battle to get people to install the thing a lot harder, so they're gonna have to wait a couple years.
Gamers will complain, but they'll go with the flow if the game is good enough, and Sony's games have been good enough.
Yeah.
So They'll complain about it, but they'll do it eventually. But they have to be incentivized. That's the thing. I feel like the audience is very willing to overlook all those corporate hurdles as long as there's something shiny distracting them. In this case, there wasn't. They already had all their goodies, and then they were asked to do this. So it's natural that they snapped back at it. But what do you guys? This has been such an interesting. This has been such an interesting story. Honestly, there's so many angles to this that don't normally happen. The adding on of a service after the fact, and honestly how outspoken and to some degree even antagonistic Arrowhead employees were in their relationship with Sony publicly, that never happens. So I don't know, what do you guys think about all this? I have a couple takeaways, but I don't want to ramble about it too long.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see Sony grapple with the space that's not really been theirs as of late, and we saw them acquire Bungie, and like in the hopes of I think bettering their games as a service offerings, right? And then I'm sure the folks at Arrowhead saw all the folks from Bungie get laid off when things maybe were not going as Sony had hoped. So I can imagine that would foster maybe a lack of trust, especially when you've got a company like Sony passing down directives. And if you think gamers have access against corporations, let me tell you about people that are lower in the corporate hierarchy. They do not. And so, maybe is it Palstead the director of Arrowhead? CEO, okay. So maybe Palstead.
And then a bunch of community managers.
Right, yeah, so maybe they knew about it for however long, but also Sony is massive. So I don't know. I'm gonna always side with the developers, and it's nice that the developers were able to go fine. You don't want to listen to us. Wait until you have to deal with PC gamers. You have no idea.
I don't necessarily want to assume that everyone's playing 4D chess, but there was an element of politics going on here that's very fascinating. Pilestead played this very well. If he was playing, he might have been straightforward with everything. I can totally see how you negotiate to delay it at launch. You have a huge launch, so it's the last thing you're thinking about is putting on another sign-in service. And if it were there at launch, it would have been terrible. So they all made the right call. And now you have a political problem of we have to put it in now because we're contractually obligated. So what do we do? They flexed their publicity. And it's the first developer I've seen that has successfully done that, where they actually kind of pushed back against the company that funded their game for 5 years or more. I don't know how long Helldivers 2 was in development, but Arrowhead, the last time they launched a game was Helldivers, and I think that was 2011? It's been a while. Anyway, Sony's been a very patient publisher, and they were coming to get their due, and they actually used the popularity of the game and their good relationship with the audience to push back and get their load reduced. So the only problem is, I wonder, that's not going to go away, though. The second he makes that relationship publicly antagonistic, that sticks around too. So you talk about Bungie getting layoffs because they slipped their revenue once. He has got to deliver forever now. If he ever loses leverage, we may never hear from him again. At least not inside of a corporate structure. He may do an independent thing because he's got a good relationship with the audience for now. It's fun for us to watch, but that is very uncommon in corporate relationships. So that's kind of what I find very fascinating about this situation. And it makes me wonder if other developers are going to try it now that they've seen it work. Certainly that had to be a concern at Sony, is that if we cave on this, we're going to get the exact same thing every time the audience or a developer doesn't like what we have to give them. So we'll see where it goes from here.
This is Lawrence. Charlotte and Lawrence covered this so well. There's only one other thing I have to add. This is a once-in-a-generation thing, and the reason I'm going to say is the reason I always say, it's money. And what Johan Palstedt did was use the money they're making for Sony against them, and that's so rare. And there are so few video games that could ever do this because Helldivers has had such an incredible launch, and also the sustain of Helldivers, the money they're continuing to make. So no other developer could have swung this. It Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Forbidden West, those, I'm sure they made money for Sony, but they're not making the amount of money that Helldivers is for Sony. So he did exactly what he should have. Also, their community team, for all of their, negative tone in their Discord, one thing stuck out to me when they were telling players what to do, which was leave negative Steam reviews and get refunds. They were like, that's the only thing that's going to change this. So I'm so glad that they, again, organized people. They said, just do these two things. That's it. That's all you do. And then once we've done that, then we've sort of made our argument to Sony, and then we'll see what Sony does. So I really applaud them for doing that. The Helldivers community team, because they nailed it on that front. So I don't know that this is going to happen very often in the future. And I, like Lawrence said, man, Sony's they're going to crack down on Arrowhead if they fuck up at all. I'm really worried for them. I'm genuinely worried for them. But I'm going to continue playing Helldivers 2 because I love it.
Well, one last point on that, Bruce. It's really easy to vilify Sony in this. I guess we can give them points for backing off, but it's important to remember Helldivers 2 would not be this popular if Sony didn't publish it in the way that they did. So
absolutely, yeah.
Theoretically, it was monetization and post-launch monetization and stuff. Sony could have pushed on that. They could have had a battle pass.
True.
They could have raised the prices of all the add-ons and stuff. They could have made the tracks that they have now have way less things in them because they're actually pretty packed. So the game launched ostensibly the way everyone wanted it, and just remember that Sony was the one that let that happen in the first place. And they put all the money up for it. So I just think that they were a little too stodgy in their corporate thinking. They were like, well, it's in the contract. We wrote it in the contract, and that's just the way it is. And so I think it took a little, like...
shrug.
Yeah, it just took a little of them, I think, realizing, like you said, Charlotte, that they are in a new ecosystem. I mean, they even acknowledged, hey, we're still learning. There was a brief mention from Jim Ryan, who's not at PlayStation anymore, but he talked about how they were looking very closely at how the PlayStation audience reacted to them launching Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. And it was fine. Like, no one was mad. So he was like, great, we'll keep going on PC. But the fact that he brought that up without being asked, he was like, yeah, we were looking and we don't want to piss our audience off. That actually means something to me. And to see it here again, I think it's genuine. I think they were used to console players just kind of signing into whatever and not complaining about it. So I think they were genuinely caught off guard, and to their credit, they reacted. So,
Charlotte, do you have any final thoughts, Charlotte, before we move on?
Yeah, Sony, put the Shutter app on your PlayStation consoles.
Hell yeah.
I have a new subscription. I'm really excited, but for some reason it's on Xbox and not PlayStation. So let's figure that out. While we have a platform. Yeah.
Shutter rocks.
Yeah, they're gonna sell our data any way they can.
While they're on the ropes, I'm just trying to, push them a little bit.
Hey, we wanted to commemorate the most legendary friendly fire incident in Helldivers 2 history with a meme for y'all, courtesy of Kino Fabino. Here it is, the best meme ever. And this was made before Sony reversed the decision. So now I feel like it's sort of a premonition.
It's a vision of what could have been, or was for 48 hours. Yes, that's a vision of what we do here with our patron support. All your funds go to creations that benefit the gamer arts, such as curated memes. So in that spirit, we have some patrons to thank. These patrons have never once team killed in Helldivers 2, which is a hell of a thing. Mark Fletcher, Jonathan Lanowski, Nick Calderon, and Xander. Thank you.
These patrons have actually never killed anyone but themselves. So that's very nice of them to not kill their teammates. Dylan Hiley, Regulus, Spirit Bear, and Tito 007. Thank you very much for your support.